we're going to talk about K99s now, and I think these are great grants to apply for. I mean, they're hard to get, but they give you 1 or 2 years of mentored research and then 3 years of sort of R1 type funding. Great grant to have. But they're very competitive, and I actually think now they really give you a leg up if you're trying to get a position. I mean, that's the key for these grants, that they give you a good leg up for new positions. So, I've had two of my postdocs get, actually 3 of my students have got K99s now, so they all got positions after that, very easy.
Yeah, are they only for basic science, or they're also for...
No, I think if you've got, I think you can. I don't know how. I don't know if they're just for clinical trials type grants. I'm not sure if that would work for K99, but anything which had some biology to it, I think would be going for these. And actually, I'll tell you some important facts a little bit later, but some institutes are very, very supportive of K99s. The nursing institute, I think 50% of applicants get their K99s. So if you can aim your K99s to the right institute, you're golden. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about it. It's a very rare. It's a rare grant in that it's open to non-US citizens, but you've got to be working in the United States to have your grant. So my student, my recent K99 student who's just got her K99, she's actually moving to Canada, so she will not be able to have her R00 component. She'll give it up. So you have to have all of the research in the United States to have all these different components. So the K99 part is a sort of a really a training component, and a lot. I'll show you a couple of grants where this has really been a reason for a person not to get a K99. You have to have a reason to have a training component. You can't. You might be an incredible scientist, but you may have a great project, but you may have learned everything that you need to learn to do those projects. And if you've done that, then they will not give you a K99. They'll say you do not need the mentorship part. And that's very important. So you've got to figure out, if you want to get a K99, you've got to figure out something which is really important to add to your story and to make your research endeavors reliant on this learned part, and maybe incorporate it in the R00 part of your graph. That's what I do. Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, this is something that I've been wrestling with because I just got my F32. I just got my F32 last year, and it hasn't been a year yet. And so in my application due in June, I will have not even completed half of my F32. And so all of the justification for training in the F32 still very well applies to what I need to get out of the K99. And so I'm wondering if I wouldn't copy and paste it, of course, but it would be a lot of the same justification.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a very strong training part in those 1 or 2 years. Otherwise, you will get comments come back. I'll give you an example of one of our postdocs who applied, and she's brilliant. I mean, she's got like 3 R1s now. I mean, she's brilliant, but she didn't get her K99 because they said you do not need any training. You should be already on that at that stage, right? So you have to figure you need something to learn in those first 2 years. So I think it's fine to carry on doing it. Okay, so this R00, you're going to get, you're going to get your salary and a good amount of money. I think it's the 250K. So you know it's a nice grant for 3 years, and really as a prospective applicant to jobs, it's very attractive to new places to see that. You know, they'll skimp on you at start maybe a little bit, but at least it gives you a leg in, and they're very happy to see that you're going to get salary for 3 years, and you're going to have a program going 3 years. They don't have to worry about you. So it's all very good. And, you know, I think that's all I wanted to say about that. So, and as I said, it's a very rare grant in that you can, as a non-citizen, you can apply for these grants. Well, requirements and eligibility. You know, it's the usual thing. I mean, you should, you can't be more than, I think 4 years, is it 4 years now, out of your PhD or your MD. That's very, very important. Now, you know, if you were pregnant or something happened to you, you can talk to the institutes, and they will give you an extension on that. One of my students was pregnant, and she got another year to apply. Yeah.
What about residency training?
You know,
So most MDs are going to have 3 to 6 years of clinical training before they start their research training.
yeah, I'm not sure whether they count that, actually. I know I'm not sure whether they count it after residency. Do you know, has anyone looked at that?
I think they only count research experience.
Research experience.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So people shouldn't feel like the clock starts when you get your MD.
Okay, so so it's after residency, or even when you start doing research, right? So that may be even after that. Yeah.
And similar question, a terminal degree means that clock restarts if you are in STAR and getting another degree. Is that what your terminal degree?
So if you're a part of the STAR program, that's interesting. Because you've got your MD and now you're doing a PhD, right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I'm not sure how they would deal with that. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to ask NIH about that, or individual institutes. I'm not sure quite how they'll deal with that. What do you think, Carol?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would think the clock would start at the end of your most recent doctoral degree. That's your research.
Or else, but they're doing research though after their MD in their. It's a complicated one.
Worth asking.
That's a complicated one. That's a good question, actually. Any more good questions?
Any more questions we can't answer?
Well, no, we can't answer all of it.
You mentioned the student that was pregnant, she got an extra year. So let's say after you got your PhD, you had 2 children in a row. Does that mean an additional year after?
Well, I mean, I think you can talk to the institutes about this. I mean, they usually will give you a break, and they should give you a break.
Right.
You know, if all I am saying is that there are reasons if you have an illness or if you have a child, or for some reason you can't do anything, do your research, they will consider that. So you can talk to the project officer about that. With the STAR program, it's a complicated one. You're going to have to ask them for break on that one. But it's you definitely, if something happens to you, ask, and you might get a break with that 4 years. So, as I say, any personal issues. This is a very busy slide. Anyway, I just copied and pasted some stuff so that because I know you'll get the slides somewhere. Eligibility. So you have to for the K99 for the K99 training part. Obviously, you're with your mentor. The mentor's got to write letters and support you for that time. But the R00 phase can get a bit sticky if you don't have an independent position. You've got to have an independent position for this R00 phase. And I've heard of NIH getting sticky about this. So if you have kind of an adjunct position in the university, it can get a bit dodgy whether in the same university as you do your K99, your training part, they can get sticky about giving you the R00. So the cleanest way of doing this is go to another place and get an assistant professor position in another place. That's what my students have done, and obviously they get their R00, no problems. Again, this has to be in the United States. You can't go to Canada or somewhere else in the world and take your, like Australia. Actually, two of the students I know went out of the country after their training part. One went to Australia and one's going to Canada, and they'll lose their R00 grant, so that'll go back to NIH. But you have to get a job which is an independent position, and make sure that NIH is going to accept that as an independent position. You've got to check with your NIH project officer on that. So those are the two criteria. Those are the criteria for the two parts. They are good about this. And oh wow, how did this happen? This wasn't like this. Oh well, I guess it's back to IBM. Anyway, there's a lot of participating institutes. Most of them participate, but as I said, there are very, very different success rates. And this was for years 2007 to 2016. This is 2016 actually. This is the years. And as you can see, the success rate's pretty different between institutes. So it goes from 50% here, which is NIM, was it? NIM? HD, minority health. So 50% of those people who apply their K99 got a K99. It's amazing, right? 50%? It's crazy these days. With the worst one here is 0%. Well, NLM, so don't put your grant into NLM. Let's see, one of the worst ones is what? This is 9%. It's NINDS. Yeah, NINDS are a bit stingy on these. That's not a great place to apply. But look at this. I mean, the difference between a 10% success rate and a 50% success rate, just depending on the institute that you apply for. I think this is quite important to know if you're thinking about a K99, that different institutes will have different sort of emphasis on this type of training program. Yeah?
Should you talk to the program officer about, I mean, how do they decide who is better for which?
Well,
what types of people
I mean, if you can fit your research here, then fit your research here, right?
No, let's say your research fits in just one, and you're going to apply to that one.
Well, you have no options, right? Yeah.
But you have options, because you would also be eligible for a K08, let's say. But you have, so if you're trying to decide which mechanism to apply for, is there someone that might be able to guide you as to whether your chances might be better in one or the other?
With a K08 or a K99? Yeah, I would talk to the project officer about that. I mean, one of the big deals is how much training you need and how close you are to independence. That's a big part of this, and how successful you've been. K99s are usually, sort of the higher profile paper type grants. That's what normally gets good reviews, as far as I've seen. People with high impact papers and high impact jobs. That's usually where the good scores are. Yeah. But anyway, I think this is a gem to know. So I always point this out. It's very different. And this is looking at our strengths at UCLA, and where this was 2012 data. I haven't got any more recent data than that of the K99 applications we put in different institutes, and see where the successes were. We did pretty good. I think above most of the averages. NIGMS wasn't so good, but I mean you can see that it's around sort of 20 to 30% would be the average success rate of these through this is I think this is just UCLA, but it's a grant worth applying for. I tell you, it is a grant worth applying for. Okay, well, see, I think we've gone over this. You know what the reviewers will look for. They look for a good track record. I think high impact publications make a big deal here, and as opposed to some of the other training grants. Again, if you're in team science, it's good to explain your contributions there. Preliminary data, innovation, potential impact, rigor. You've talked about this in the other grant types. So, but again, I wanted to point out again. Remember, this is a training grant, so you need to have this very good rationale for acquiring new techniques or methodologies that you haven't learned in that first K99 part. And this training plan, from my take, is just as important actually as the research plan. It's very important because you know they're really judging you on your past experience and whether the training is going to enrich your career and your story that you're developing. So I think that's an important part of it. Good reference letters is very important. I would look for not friends down the hall, but I would get really good letters from faculty who are really relevant to your area, in your training area. You need to get this. You need to have the mentor letter in these grants is like 5 pages or so. It's a big old letter, so that the mentor has to start preparing this a long time in advance. So really prepare your mentor for getting this done. It's important. So we all know about the new NICVs, and that this was from last time. I still think this is very important that you really present yourself well in the CVs, and make sure that you include the list of all your publications. I find this very irritating when people leave that out. You know, there's the list of all of your publications in NIH. If you don't have that, people get really crazy because they're trying to figure, especially if you have a common name like Chris Evans. You know, C. Evans, right? There's thousands of C. Evanses, and you can't figure out who's done what if you look at in PubMed. But it's very important that you have that link, and that link is in your CV. So I think you should try and use all the contribution categories as you can. I advise that. So split your areas up, and even if you only have one or two publications in each of those areas, instead of the 4 which are allowed, I would still divvy it up into different contributions you've made, because I think part of the assessment of a person is whether they're good in different areas. Whether they can contribute and make progress in different areas. And I think it's nice to see that split up as much as you can. So this is definitely include this, and I think the best way to do that is to do it reverse chronological, so that people can see your most up to date ones first and then go down. So that's the way I like to see it. Okay, this is very, very important. Please speak to your the program officers at NIH. They will give you very, very good information, and you can pass by abstracts and lots of things, and they will give you very good information. They know what gets funded, and if you get a rapport with the program officers, it can make a really, really big difference. So I really advise you to talk to them. And the guidelines of these things are changing all the time, so definitely go and have a look at most recent program announcements. They are changing, and that's good to know. So what I try to do here is go. This is the review forms that you have for here, and I try to sort of correlate what a reviewer would be doing. I mean, now we're looking at this will be the overall impact, and will be everything from the training to the research, training plans, the research, and the person, and the first issue is the candidate, and the areas which you'll be filling out is this candidate background, career goals, and career development training, and training in responsible conduct. So all of these will be sort of in the candidate and the career development plan, and these are the first things which are scored. And when most people make their minds up about a grant very quickly, they make their minds up on the first categories. So these are going to be good. So you've got to put your best face forward, and this comes in the CV, and talking about your background and your career goals. And as I say, this is a big former of their opinions for the rest of the grant. The research may not be actually quite as important as this, because it may be reliant a lot on what you're training. So it may be more speculative than other grants that you might see in like our grants. And then you've got your research plan and your mentors. This is all scoring material, and your environment. All of these are going to be scoring materials, and I would be very careful about over-ambitious aims in these grants. You're going to be training a lot of the time, so part of your training should go into your later aims. So you're going to train and learn a technique and then put it into your later aims. That's the strategy to use there. Again, I would in the research research proposal, this 7 pages, I would include a section on rigor. I think rigor will be very important here, and I would include that as a separate section. Okay, and then there's these additional review considerations that we talked about before, just so that you can see how a reviewer would be thinking: training and responsible conduct of research, and selected reagents, which you probably won't have to look at. These are these are usually you have to look up on the website what these could be. Resource sharing plans. We haven't talked about resource sharing plans. I always would put them, if you're going to do anything like RNA-seq, anything DNA work, anything which is going to do, have big imaging files or data files, you need to have a sharing plan. If there's not a sharing plan, even if it's below the limit that they ask for, I think it's 400,000, that they really need to have a sharing plan, I would put one in and say how you're going to make this material available. If it isn't there, you might get a stroke against you by some reviewers because they like to see it. So here we have, let's see, stick problem. Okay, so this is a project summary page and the project narrative, resources, facilities, equipment, list of referees. That's obvious. This is what you have to go through when you're writing. There's a lot more to this grant than almost every other grant. There's a lot more parts to it. And the mentor's statement really, as I said, it's about a 5-page thing you have to write here for the mentor. So you have to make sure that you're pretty well coordinated with the mentor, because the mentor has to reiterate a lot of the training, has to go in there. It's a difficult letter to write, and so you guys have to work together very closely with your mentor and do it a long time in advance, please. It's easy for that to screw up. Yeah, so the mentor letter is 5 to 10 pages. So that's a lot of writing, right? And there's a lot of information, and I think you're going to have to help a lot in that. So I think it's important that you differentiate your research from your mentor's research. That should come out in the letter, right? The differentiation, and the synergy of the research that you're doing with the mentor's research. Career opportunities should be an important part of the original training part. So how are you going to go to meetings and meet people? How are you going to prepare for doing a career? Is all important in this letter. And there's a number of there's some K99s, I think, on the projects up there. Mitch, are there's some K99?
I think there are, but I'm not 100% sure.
There are.
At least one.
Yeah, okay. There are some over there, and so you'll see the letters hopefully on those. Which
This is similar for the KOA of
Yeah.
23.
there's a lot of writing though.
That's what I was trying to tell you. That this whole issue with your mentor, the letter, you can see that there's a lot of. I'm glad that you put it in because I didn't have so much detail, but it's very important. It's six pages you have of it. That's a lot of space.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think people don't really look at the institutional environment. You don't have to write too much on that, but you should describe, the seminar series, other faculty who can help, the coursework, and shared resource facilities. There's a beautiful site on the CTSI site which will show you all the cores, and use them. Put them down. Tell everyone what we've got. Okay, and then you need this letter of institutional commitment. That'll be done by by your chair or the I guess the CTSI writes these as well, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually the chair in our case. So yeah.
On the previous slide, the board has you want the teaching responsibilities.
Well, you can have some teaching responsibilities as long as you don't have too much. I wouldn't emphasize, everybody should be teaching a little bit, right? You go to classes, but if you have to, teach, chair 3 courses a year, that's a lot of time out of your efforts. So teaching is responsibilities is really, my understanding is that K99 they want to 100% effort. But obviously teaching should be part of your development, career development, and I would say I wouldn't emphasize it. I wouldn't talk about it. I would say you don't have to, but you obviously would be doing it. I would just yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention for the credit competition and until it's done, the mentor letter, 6 pages max, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the letter of institutional commitment is 1, just to clarify.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Changed.
Oh, it changed.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's less writing.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot.
Yes.
It's still a lot. Okay, so this is 6 now, is it?
That's also including the co-mentor letters as well. So if you have co-mentor letters and the primary mentor, everything has to
Within 6 pages. Wow.
So 4 minutes might be too much.
So the primary mentor needs to be 2 at least, and then every co-mentor you have
It has to be.
only be a total of 6. So you can't have more than 4 co-mentors altogether, because the primary has to be 2, and the rest have to be all
Well, that's good.
6.
So they must have just changed this. That's why I say you have to go to the RFA. The last time we put this was a couple of years ago, so we haven't put the updates, but it's changed. That's good.
You can put the collaborators and consultant in a different section. They can still contribute towards your career development.
And then you have an
They can't
additional
realize
6.
But they don't necessarily write a letter. You just sort of
They can write a letter of collaboration.
Collaboration.
Oh, that's different than
Yeah,
that's
mental
within the 6 pages.
So okay, well this is 6 now, and you say this is only institutional 1. Okay, I'll change that.
Both
Thank you.
are 1.
Huh?
Both are 1.
This one's 1,
Yeah. And the one below 2.
and this is 1. Okay, yeah. Oh, how did that happen? Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, these things are changing all the time. Is that it?
I do have a question.
Going in now. It'll come back.
We'll come back. It's going in now. Whoop. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
I just clarify something you said about the RFAs earlier. So obviously the RFAs are not for keywords, but are you saying that if your keyword falls into the topic listed for the RFA for like an R1, that money that goes to your keyword would work for them, so they would want to fund your project?
I doubt it. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't think you can submit the K23 for in response to an RFA for a specific topic, even if it is something related to. I am not aware of it.
No, I haven't.
Oh, I guess the question was, if they have to spend a certain amount of money for that RFA, do they get would that give them an incentive?
The pot is for different because one pot is for RFA and another pot is for K. So that's very straightforward. So
Yeah. I don't think it's.
I think
RFA.
this should go to a whole career development award. That's where they go. They have a budget for that, and that's how they work around it.
I find it much easier to look at videos. So for this rigor and transparency, I would go to these videos and just listen to the videos. But as the Citro said, in the study section I was in, it wasn't as big a deal as you made out. I think it's important to address the sex differences, and it's important to have the section on rigor and to talk about how your reagents are well characterized, and that you're doing the right power analysis and statistics and all this kind of stuff. I think it's worth having a short section on rigor, but I wouldn't worry about it more than just putting it in and being aware of it. Okay, it's in review. It isn't a big deal as long as you've got those. As long as you put it in.
I agree.
Okay? Is that what you
I agree, but that's the way that I saw it.
Yeah. That's the way I saw it as well. As long as it was there, and it doesn't have to be big, as long as it's there, they'll be happy. Yeah.
Do you actually comment on it? So you're saying everything is transparent and you're using the correct methods, or are you listing them so that the reviewer can tell?
No, well, as a reviewer, you do comment on it. So if somebody's talked about authentication of a reagent like an antibody, you would say, well, you've got to use a knockout. You can't just do a peptide block of the antibody, right? An antigen block. You've got to use a knockout because there's cross-reactivity you've got to look at, right? So it's part of the rigor of the whole grant if the authentication of reagents is not solid. So we do discuss it. And but I think this is sort of normal I think as long as you put the information down, and as long as your reagents are good, and you have a way of validating them,
So
then
in this section, I just list whatever I have and don't. I just list the methods more or less.
well, in a rigor, you'll say you're going to use this type of statistics because. And because this is the appropriate way of
they argue.
you argue for the reagents and the statistics you're going to use, the power analysis, the number of animals you're going to use. You basically argue in that little section about the approaches that you're going to do to your research and why you're going to do it. That's how I've seen it done, and I think that's a very effective way of doing it.
And another question: do you have to address the second part, the RO part as well in this? Because
yes, you would have to, but obviously the R00 may depend on what you've learned. So it's going to be, but you should also include in the rigor. It should still have a rigorous part to it. You should still say what you're going to use and why you're going to use it and how you're going to validate things. So you maybe you may going to learn how to use viruses and make viruses, right? In your K99 part, you're going to use them in the R00 part. You would still say that you want to validate if the viruses are working, and they're expressing the protein you want to know and how you're going to do that. You would still have that in rigor, right? I would still put that in because it'll be otherwise it'll be a question. That's what I would do. So, yeah.
I have a question about research proposal. So is the research proposal aimed for the entire 5 years of the
Yes. It will be. It was 5 years. Yeah, you can't get away with just doing the training part. You need to do the 5 years. So the best way of doing it, and this is what my students have done, is they've had projects which go the whole 5 years. And then they've learned something in the first 2 years, and then they've incorporated them into the sub-aims of some of the later year projects. That works very nicely.
The study sections are the same, right?
K99 study sections, yes. Yes. We didn't have any K99s this time, though. I haven't been on a study section with K99, to tell you the truth. So I can't quite answer that question. I don't know quite how they're reviewed. My guess is they go to regular study sections. That's what I would think. But I've never
reviewed K99.
No, I've never reviewed one. So it's a good question, actually. I've never been on a review panel which has reviewed the review. Maybe it's a black hole somewhere. I don't know.
You should have a program officer.
But we could probably look up and find some committees which have reviewed those because.
An NIH reporter.
Yeah, an NIH reporter should have that information. We should be able to find if there are specific study sections or not. My thought would be that they would be reviewed with the K grants.
That would be my guess because
yeah,
each institute, or at least I know NHLBI and NIBDK, they have a study section for K and P.
Yeah.
So the same. So I would guess they will go in that, but I don't know.
Anyway, you should.